are now tuned in to the True Dialogue Podcast, and I am your host, Queen SGV, Miss T, the Valley Girl, aka the Triumphant One. And give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you for joining me tonight, True Dialogue Podcast, where we are guided by spirit, grounded in truth. It is not small talk, it is true dialogue. And our word of encouragement tonight is coming from Deuteronomy 31 and 8. The Lord Himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. And then Psalms 23 and 4. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, through the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. Those are good scriptures for us to know. Remember, do not be afraid nor dismayed, because God goes before you. A lot of times we get into situations, we worry, allow ourselves to be stressed, and it just leads us to being drained because we're so mentally discouraged. We become physically drained. I always say people don't really realize how much of an impact your mental health has, our mental health has on our physical health. So one of the prayers that I was blessed with some time ago, the Lord put on my heart, I call it a personal prayer given to me directly by God, is Father God, I turn my worries, my fears, my anxieties, my stresses, my depression, my madness, my sadness, my anger, my hurt, my pain, doubt, confusion, tension, unbelief, disbelief, distrust, frustration, aggravation, irritation, gossip, and tension all over to you. I declare and decree that I am free from the bondage that Satan was so easily try to ensnare me in. And I'm going to tell you that prayer works. Renew your mind. Keep your mind renewed. Keep your focus in tune. Think on these things that are good and noble. So again, our encouraging word today comes from Deuteronomy 31:8. The Lord Himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. And I can tell you, I've been through some things, but glory to God, I can honestly say to you, He has never left me, nor has He forsaken me. And for that, I am extremely, extremely grateful. So, you guys be encouraged tonight. Once again, you are tuned into the True Dialogue Podcast, guided by spirit, grounded in truth. It's not small talk, it is true dialogue. Tonight, we do have a special guest. I want to tell you our episode tonight, The Forgotten Crip. On April 25th, 1986, a young, I'm sorry, I said that all the way wrong. Let me say this how it is supposed to be said. On I want to 4 days later, so I put this out. Okay. Okay, now I apologize, y'all. That's how it goes. And because I do this all the time, huh? If it's not one thing, it is another. I got y'all. So on September 1987, a young black man was convicted of first degree homicide for the unaliving of a white man named Robert Lee Bollinger, who was shot to death in an alleyway in Montclair, California on April 25th, 1986. 4 days later, on April 29th, 1986, Duane Fitzpatrick was arrested, questioned, and charged with the murder of Robert Lee Bollinger. On May 2nd, 1986, Duane would appear in court where the charges were dismissed due to insufficient evidence. However, in December of 1986, Duane Fitzpatrick once again was arrested and officially charged with Pt.1 homicide in the first degree, and was ultimately convicted and sentenced in September 1987 to the California Department of Corrections, where he served 33 years. One man, one murder, two trials, same verdict. Guilty. Family of overcomers, join me as we welcome our guest, Mr. Duane Fitzpatrick, author of The Forgotten Crip. Let's go ahead and give you a round of applause. Thank you for joining us. It is a pleasure to have you. I'm so grateful as always to have guests. Two of my favorite moments on True Dialogue True Dialogue podcast is when I interview guests, and when I do the grief counseling coaching session, which I'll be getting back to this evening. So I read the book, The Forgotten Crip. I must say it was very, very enlightening. 33 years for a crime that you did not commit. Now, I did some research. I read the book thoroughly, front page to the last page. I did some research on your case. Excuse me, I did some research on your case as well as just some convictions. There's one thing though I want to start with, that I want to open with. I want to read an insert. I want to set the stage because you used this word and it went with my podcast. And of course, I was like, okay, I like that. So I want to open this because you wrote this book, and I'm sure many who have read it, many who may be watching, want to know about the book. I've encouraged people go get the book so they would know what we are talking about and be able to keep up with our dialogue, right? As this day was coming.
Right.
You say, ultimately, my personal story is one of triumph. There is triumph over my extensive incarceration, which was designed to break me down. You say, not to rehabilitate me in any constructive way. There is triumph over my old game banging mentality, which was very counterproductive. And lastly, there is triumph over self, which, as it turned out, was one of my biggest obstacles. You say, my hope is that telling my story will pass, will, excuse me, my hope is that telling my story will pass on what I learned to those who need to hear it the most. So would it be safe to say, though you told your story, you are more or less telling it as a word of encouragement, the confines of incarceration, because there's a few things I noticed in here, and I was like, whoa, as well as the injustices, particularly black men face. And even though some laws have changed, we can't say that
Mm.
those injustices are non-existent. So
Right.
it was initially thought for a while that you were actually uh, incarcerated for the unaliving of one of your own boys, correct? That was
I've heard that a time or two.
right, and so that was absolutely not the case. So
100%.
tell us a bit about this, and we'll get into some of the injustice. Like I said, I did some research. One man, uh, one body, one murder, two trials, same conviction.
Right.
So from the book, you were out. There was a man. Apparently, there was a lot of activity going on in Montclair, California. That's where this took place in Montclair, California. So tell us the initial vibe, I guess, of that evening. I mean, I read it, but what was the vibe the night the man was unalived in the alley in Montclair?
Well, it was a Friday night. The atmosphere was kind of festive in that area. Every evening actually, but this particular evening was a Friday night. A lot of drug transactions going on. You know, people out there playing loud music. Just black people just hanging out. You know what I mean, doing what we do. And like I say, there's a lot of traffic that comes through there. You know what I mean? People looking to buy, people looking to sell. Uh, and it was a mixture of people from Los Angeles County, people from LA County, um, and people from San Bernardino County. So you had, a wide variety of people that were out there doing a wide variety of different things. So a car coming down there, parking in the alley, you know what I'm saying? Pretty much everybody out there know what they're seeking at that time. So yeah, there was a drug transaction that was taking place. I poked my head in the crowd to see.
You in black, you know that? Hello.
I poked my head in the crowd just to kind of see what the individual was looking to buy. I saw rock cocaine at the time. The person was looking to buy some marijuana. I didn't have marijuana, so I proceeded to leave the immediate scene of where the individual was with his female companion, and went on back into my apartment. So,
Right.
but as I was in the process of doing that, I mean, it wasn't a scuffle that broke out, but somebody snatched the dude's money. You know what I'm saying? Which happens pretty regularly, especially when you got people that's out there that's trying to hustle, when you got people that's out there that's trying to get over. In that case, it was somebody, a crackhead, that actually snatched the money and took off and ran. The dude didn't know who grabbed his money. All he knew was bunch of black dudes hovering around his vehicle. So as far as he's concerned, we all had something to do with it, even though it wasn't number $10. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So dude
Mhm.
jumped out of his vehicle, got to throwing that negative N word around. And I'm 19 years old at the time, and everybody else is out there is either younger or not too much older than myself. So
Mhm.
of course he offended everybody out there. So I
Mhm.
left, went up into my apartment, really, I'm saying, seeking safety, but at the same time, I had a young family up there. I mean, that I had to be concerned about, including my newborn daughter, was just born less than 90 days uh,
Okay.
from when that happened. So
Okay.
yeah, I went up there, you know what I mean, and let off a few shots, got my weapon, let off a few shots, and in the dude's direction. But I saw the dude scamper and run, you know what I mean, take off. Looked perfectly fine, you know what I'm saying, last time I laid eyes on him. Next thing I know, I'm getting questioned about it and arrested, and then 8 months later, rearrested, and that's when my journey through CDC began. You know,
Right. Right.
as a
You
convicted murderer.
you were how old when you 20 20 19 20? You
I
had just
was I
turned
was
20.
Yeah, I just turned 12. I was 19 when in
The
April of
incident happened.
1986. Yeah, I was 19. 20
Okay.
when I got arrested, when I got rearrested and held, should I say?
Right. Actually charged and
Yeah,
convicted
formally
for it.
charged, exactly, and convicted, exactly.
This was your first time actually doing time. Like
uh,
doing like
as
you
an
had
adult,
never been to prison before.
no, no,
I read in the book you had did some time in camp,
juvenile,
correct?
yeah,
Juvenile
hmm
hall. You had never even been to YA, correct?
no, never been a youth authority.
Right. So this was right. So this is your first time
Yeah,
doing, and you just had a baby. You know what I found interesting and I loved is that you said that you always told your daughter that you would Be back.
I will be back. Yeah.
You say every night you would tell her I'll be back. And
Every
if
time I
I'm not,
left.
correct me if I'm wrong. This night you said you didn't tell her that.
The morning I got arrested, I didn't tell her that.
Right.
Yeah. And her mother, you know what I'm saying, was reminding me too that, the officer said they was gonna come get me around Christmas for this case. I mean, unbeknown to me, they was building that brand new jail slash courthouse in Rancho Cucamonga on Haven at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like one of their first residents. I was their first homicide defendant.
Okay.
But yeah,
Wow.
they came and arrested me at Pamela Park. You know what I mean, 2 days before Christmas.
Right.
But
I
yeah,
seen that
that
the
morning, yeah,
22nd to about 3 days.
23rd, yeah, two
Yeah.
23rd,
23rd. Okay.
yeah,
Because I made the wrong note. Then
yeah.
20,
But I forgot to
33
tell her that, yeah, 33 years later, yeah.
33 years. I mean that's a nice. That's life. That's your life. You miss so much. Now, when I read the book, and I think it's important to note this, you were talking about basically the transition of going from being pretty much a good kid, a good cop, a good guy, young man on the right track, wanting the right things, playing baseball. You mentioned having a paper route to the point of transitioning and rebellion setting in. In the book,
Mhm.
you mentioned how at one point you were playing baseball. You said your first, you first, and I'm paraphrasing, your first distrust, I'll say, of the system was when an announcement for a baseball tournament came. You had played baseball game and you were actually responsible for the catch, the winning catch, the catch that got
Yeah,
your
All Star
team the
game.
win, that led to
Yeah.
your team winning. So it sounds like in your heart and in your spirit, you were pretty confident that you were going to be one of the people named and called to be in the tournament that would
Oh,
represent
no doubt.
the city where you grew up, Monrovia and Duarte, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
But unfortunately, you say that was not the case.
No.
Now, tell me about how you felt at that point because that was a great disappointment. You say in the book that was basically your first point of starting to distrust basically the system. What was
Well,
your mindset then like?
unbeknown to me, the powers that be had a secret agenda at that time because of some damaged property uh, around the
Okay.
Little League Diamond at that time, and our last name, you know what I mean, which wasn't as infamous as it became in later years,
Right.
um, was associated with some of that damage. So yeah, once that happened, yeah, that was a real tough pill to swallow at what 12, 13 years old because I was one of the better players for the league at the time. Everybody
Right.
knew it.
Right.
You know what I mean, the coaches,
Right.
the administrative people, the fans, my teammates, my opponents, they all knew it. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was a
So
setback for me mentally because it was something that I worked hard for. You know?
right. So far as you were concerned, that was kind of like a hidden agenda.
Oh yeah,
Basically, the
definitely.
announcement was a hidden agenda to in a sense, ostracize you, push you out,
Yeah,
backlash from this situation that
yeah,
happened. Correct?
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
you go on to say real rebellion set in when your grades started to slip. Your dad had
Hmm.
already told you, get your grades together
Hmm.
or you couldn't play.
Hmm.
You really wanted to play baseball, so you really liked baseball. Baseball was like your
Yeah,
thing.
I still love baseball.
I was getting ready to say,
Yeah,
are you
yeah,
still
yeah, I still
into
watch it.
baseball?
Oh, absolutely. Watch it as often as I can.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I
you
still love it.
say that your dad told you that, but your grade slipped. Dad is like, mm. Your coach comes, talk to your dad.
Mhm.
Dad is like, mm. You was mad. You had it back. That was your first point of
Oh, you
standing
talking
up to
about?
pops. Like if you
Oh
get
yeah,
at me, I'm so mad. If you get
right,
at me, I'm
right, right,
because
right,
I'm
right.
I'm really really upset.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so in it also in that you speak about, and I'm going somewhere with this, right? Also in that you speak about how it felt good being a part of your team. It felt good having your team look at you and being dependent on you.
Mhm.
Just being a part of something successful, a part of something meaningful, a part of
Mhm.
something productive. That
Right.
made you feel you spoke about that. You spoke about this is why I really commend you because and this is something that a lot of black men, black people, I'm not even just going to say men, and I'm not even going to just say black people. Most of us who grow up in the hood, the ghetto, in urban society, we deny our true feelings. We deny the things, the bullying that we go through, the fears that we have from other kids in the community. We feel pressed, we feel pressured to
Mhm.
counter those and act like we're so bad. If you run, you scared. You spoke about a lot of that. And I found that so it was elating to me. I can resonate with that. We spoke briefly over the phone, and I said I can resonate with you in regard to the rebellion when
Mhm.
the situation happened with your dad. Tell me. Let's go over a little bit of that. Growing up, the running, the getting clowned, the just talk about some of that emotion and the honest perspective because young men, young women need to know that these are the things that ultimately lead you to the lifestyle of gang banging that is absolutely non conducive, and there is a more productive way to handle it. Go ahead, you have the floor. Let's talk about some of that.
Well, what I'll say right from the very beginning, something that I didn't learn until years later when parole commissioners kind of broke it down for me, and that is that gang membership is on any level. It starts with a need for acceptance. You know what I mean? Social acceptance from your peers, and that's pretty much sums it all up in a nutshell. Because without that social acceptance, you know what I mean, in your community, from people that you constantly encountering, you know what I mean, whether either positively or negatively, it weighs on you. You know what I mean? And it's gonna make you make a decision. You know what I mean? And that decision can be a positive one that leads to being productive, or it can lead to a negative one, or it can leave you in a catch 22. You know what I mean? So for me, yeah, there was a series, you know what I'm saying, that not only myself experienced and some of my siblings, but people in the neighborhood experienced bullying. That was common, you know what I mean, in the 70s, in the 80s. I mean, I don't know too many kids my age who didn't experience it on some level. But after we pretty much let me back up. Our parents, you know what I'm saying, used to always tell us, hey, you know what I'm saying, y'all doing all this fighting around the house, bumping into each other, knocking over stuff, breaking stuff. Why don't y'all fight them boys out there in the street? You know what I mean? The ones that keep chasing y'all home. The ones that's doing this, the ones that's doing that. And then we started thinking, like, wait a minute, man, what's they right? You know what I mean? So we start, we started asserting ourselves a little bit more throughout the neighborhood. And that started to change, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, the perception changed. You know what I mean? And once the perception changed, the dynamics of that whole
Right,
situation started to change. You know what I mean? And we just started, you know what I mean, asserting ourselves a little bit more. Next thing you know, what I'm saying, we got nicknames. You know what I mean? Um, my original nickname was Gumby, and that was because I had my front teeth removed when I was in Northview in junior high school, and it was a couple of years before I actually had got a partial put in. So I took the name Gumby and I changed it to Gump, uh, probably right before high school, when I started finding myself really like caught up in this gangbanging stuff. You know what I mean? Representing the neighborhood. Putting the blue rag in my back pocket and you know doing everything. I'm saying that was we weren't supposed to be doing. That was contrary. You know what I'm saying, to my upbringing. You know what I mean? So
but
that right there just
go
yeah.
ahead.
Now I was gonna say that that right there was kind of my indoctrination into that lifestyle. I had an older brother who was you know very rebellious. You know what I'm saying, had got a criminal record at a young matter of fact, he had kicked out the school district when he was in elementary school. So that was my role model. You know what I mean? Um, Following behind him, forgetting, you know what I'm saying, my goals, my ambitions, and then by my grades slipping, you know what I mean, not being focused, it just continued
Right.
that downward kind of trend, you know what I mean?
Because you mentioned that you were raised in a two-parent household. Your
Yes,
mother
it
was
was.
a very much a virtuous woman, a woman of God, very grounded in her faith. She spoke to you about God quite often. Your father worked. All of you had the same mother and father, right? So three key points
Absolutely.
that what I noticed, I would say that kind of took you into rebellion was number one. I would say was that first incident. You got the winning ball and you don't get named. Number two, your dad not letting you go on to play baseball because of your grades. And then number three, there was you had a paper route, and come to find out, your supervisor was stupid the money was was getting you, and you felt some
Yeah,
type
yeah,
of
yeah,
way. You felt
yeah.
some type of
Oh
way
yeah.
about that. So now you get
Right.
into the life. You're doing your thing. You set up
Hmm.
shop in Montclair. You're doing your thing. You and
Hmm.
little Willie get pretty close.
Yeah,
He's young, 15. You guys get pretty close.
yeah,
He's with you like on a consistent basis. At one
yeah,
point, you said he had been. You meet Darlene. You
yeah,
were you meet. So Darlene is like your first real girlfriend.
yeah.
You had your first child at
Absolutely.
19, correct? So
Yeah.
you met Darlene when you were what, like 18, 19?
No, no. I met her when I was in continuation school. So I was about 16.
Okay, so you guys
Yeah,
kind of talked. I know she was pregnant when you met her
yeah.
in a
She was.
foster home, right?
Uh, did they call it foster home at that? Yeah, I guess it was a foster home.
Placement
But he was
foster
just pretty
home.
much living. He was pretty much living with his family, you know, and they was, you know, taking all her little food stamp money and all that, you know, what they call it nowadays, that benefits money, whatever it was.
Snap.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they
So
right. They was pretty much
you
using her like that. So
you guys get together about 18, you guys become a official couple somewhere around there.
I would say, yeah, about 18. Yeah,
You guys
yeah.
you
Moved out
moved
on her
into the
own.
place before you had the
Yeah,
baby, right?
yeah, yeah.
But you moved into the place once she got
No, no,
pregnant.
no, 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 no. We moved into the place after the birth of my daughter. I
After
was still living
Destiny.
at my
Okay.
mom's at her parents' home. Yeah, in the old neighborhood at that time.
Okay, so you move into this place in Montclair. You get this place. You set up shop. You and Willie are
Yeah,
pretty tight. You guys are going back and forth. You already described how the neighborhood was. It was a bit of everybody, and I mean, IE and LA County getting together is never really a good mixture. From
yeah,
what I see to this day, it's just a different. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
and
Yeah, I
Montclair
was.
and Montclair and Ontario, they're right there. They're right. A lot of people think
Yeah,
Claremont is San Bernardino County, and it's not. It's L.A.
right,
County, and it
right.
ends L.A. County going into this city that you're
Hmm.
speaking of. And so you have a lot going on from the book. There are Bloods over there. There are Crips over there. There are things going on. You get into it with some Bloods or what have you. It's a lot going on. At one
Yeah,
point, you try to do some stuff that don't work out. You end up in a high speed chase. I'm not even gonna get into that. I'll just say go figure on that one. What's understood don't need to be explained. Go read the book. I was just like,
right,
yeah, go
right,
figure. At any rate,
right,
so
right.
now you want to retaliate. You say at this point, one of your homies, little Dave, up in between all of this going on, one of your little homies, little Dave, gets shot.
Hmm.
And so that really just sets you off. So now you want to get it at this one dude because basically he's infiltrating. He's what
Hmm.
do the kids call it today? A op. He's on the opposite side of the road, the opposite color, but in this area because it's a money making area, you guys are hustling. So he playing like it's all good,
Right.
but all the time he sets up a play. Okay,
Hmm.
Willie is at your house all the time.
Yeah.
His family is looking for him. You tell his grandmother where he is. She
Yeah.
came back. What did he say to you?
Oh, I mean, he gave me a look like I betrayed him. You know what I mean? But I knew, you know what I'm saying, deep down inside that I was doing the right thing, which was letting them know where he was, because I knew the relationship that he had with his grandmother. I knew she loved him dearly. I knew he loved her. You know what I mean? But the situation at home just wasn't, you know what I mean, the way that I guess he needed it to be. He had more freedom. He had money in his pocket. He had girls. He was comfortable out there with me. You know what I mean? So when I saw his grandmother and she asked me, did I know where he was? I couldn't lie to her. You know what I mean?
Right.
I told her, yeah, I've seen him. I know where he is, and I'll get this message to him. You know. Then
So did
ultimately, yeah, I called him and let him know where they can come pick him up.
and he felt like it,
Yeah,
but
he
he
looked at
made
me.
his way back to you.
Yeah, he
So you
did.
guys are posseed up this night.
Yeah,
And is it Lil J? I want to make sure because there was a little G mentioned. I'm not reading my notes. I'm just kind of going off my head. You guys are posseed up this night, ready to
yeah,
go put in some
yeah.
work,
Go to
do
get ready
whatever
to go retaliate. Yeah.
right. And some kind of way, I want to go through this. I want to find my page. You say what I found interesting was you said to I thought I was getting ready to get something. You said to make a long story short and protect the guilty, the attempted drive-by shooting backfired. There was a head-on collision and then a lot of gunplay. Little Willie, aka Willie Banks, who was only 15 years young, got shot in the back. He was pronounced dead at Pomona Valley Hospital that night. What was your emotion?
I mean, just hearing my words, and I know how much emotion went into recalling that situation. Um, it still hurts. It still haunts me to this day. I still got a scar on my leg from the accident. You know what I mean? That it's a constant reminder. When I told myself when I was incarcerated years before I even you know came home that he would always be with me. You know what I mean? Because I know that he he trusted me. You know what I mean? And I was somebody that he looked up to. But in the same token, I respected him. I trusted him enough to allow him to drive that day. I couldn't drive. There were other people in the car that could drive, but I didn't trust them to drive for that particular mission that we was on. So having him behind the wheel, having been in the car with him driving before, even though he was 15 years old, he drove like a NASCAR driver. So I was very comfortable with him driving. But that night prior to that, because we pulled up on the wrong street, looking to get at some people, and I didn't know until some people in the car told me after the incident that he was real nervous, that there was something uneasy about him. He was real quiet. You know what I mean? They say when death is about to come up on you, that you can see it. You can know you can kind of get that premonition. You know what I'm saying? That something is negative about to happen. Had they told me that from the beginning, I would have pulled us out of that situation and said, "Nah, let's go ahead on." Because that day we was actually on our way to go do a robbery up in Bakersfield, was it no Palmdale, Lancaster area that night. But we just happened to be driving past that area, town, I believe it was, in Pomona. We said, man, y'all want to dip through here real quick? So we went ahead and went on over there instead. You know what I mean? And all hell broke loose. But
You
yeah,
said uh you went to the funeral. Um you said, you went to the funeral. After the funeral, you went to the park, you sat in the park, and his aunt,
Loretta.
Loretta, one of his aunts was in the park, and she was basically saying, I wish he would tell us what happened because don't nobody believe that it was a drive by, something to that effect.
Yeah,
For the most part, you were looked at for being the cause of his demise.
Hmm.
I know at one point it was said that you did it, then at another point it was said that someone else did it, then at another point it was said that the Bloods did it, whatever the case may be. But you said she sat in the park, she seen you sitting in the back park, and she said it loud enough where you could hear it. And so you said this I commend you for. When I read this book, there were so many things that I commend you for. You sat there, you thought about what she said, and you felt, for a better lack of words, I'm gonna say some type of way. And you said you felt you basically owed it to his family to tell them the truth. The least you could do was tell them the truth. You said that in the book you say you went over to his grandmother's house. Coincidentally, she was there by herself, right? Because my understanding, I've done some research on this. My understanding, there was a pretty big family that lived in that house, right? And you went to her house. Coincidentally, she was there by herself. She let you in. You guys talked for around an hour. What was that conversation like? What did you say to her? How did you open up to her? What was the conversation like? She opens you knock on the door, she opens the door. Let's go from there.
I saw her at the funeral. She and several of his family members, looked at me, including his mom, like I said, his cousins, his little brother at the time. Um, so I knew there was a lot of speculation. People didn't know exactly what happened. You know what I mean? The newspapers, I'm saying, it falsely reported it only because they didn't really know. You know what I mean? No one was in custody at that time for the crime. Nobody come forward, said they did this, that, and other. So yeah, when I went over there that night, yeah, I had a heavy heart. I had a heavy heart, and I knew again that I needed to, man up and go over here and let this family know exactly what happened. You know what I mean? They deserve to know. You know what I mean? So when I went over there and knocked on the door, it was dark, it was quiet, and I didn't know if I was gonna get ambushed walking up the porch. You know what I mean? But um, I still knew that it was something that I needed to do. Just out of respect for Lil Willie and for his family. You know what I mean? So when I knocked on the door, she opened the door right away, and she gave me a look. It was almost as if she knew that I would be over there. You know what I mean? It was like a spiritual thing for real. And I stepped inside. The house was quiet. It was dark. You know what I mean? You wouldn't think that would be the case. You know what I mean? Especially the day of someone's memorial. You wouldn't think that the house would be empty at that time, just a few hours later, that the house would be quiet. Uh, so when I started talking to her about what happened, she knew. You know what I mean? Like I said, it was like a spiritual thing. She knew why I was there. She knew that what I was about to tell her was going to be, 100% accurate of the events. You know what I'm saying, that led to his demise that week prior. So yeah, that was a difficult conversation to have. You know what I
I'm
mean?
gonna give you. I'm gonna certainly give you a round of applause for that because in the midst of losing someone, and then you have some, for you to know that you are being looked at as the culprit to this situation, and you find it in your heart to go over there by yourself. I commend that. You said that she said something to you, and you said to this day, whenever you basically get down, and I paraphrase, those words stick with you. If I'm not mistaken, you said she also prayed for you prior to you leaving the house, right? God is
Yeah,
awesome. God is good. Throughout the book, you talk about again your mom, your mom being the woman of God, and the encourager she was to you. You have your daughter. This situation happens December. You have your, I mean, that was August. That was August 31st, 1986. This situation happened. 4 months later, you are now arrested for the unaliving of Robert Lee Bollinger. a situation, and this time you are officially charged. This time you are arrested, you are questioned, you are officially charged,
Booked,
booked
booked,
in.
and about to get cooked.
Yeah, you go to court, you're
Right.
fighting a case. How long did you fight your initial case?
Uh, I was originally arrested in December, maybe about 6 months. Wasn't long at all. Well, homicide conviction, that's unheard of. But I was so impatient dealing with, what I mean, the emotions of having lost loved ones. Because like I said in the book, also, it was four people that I knew that died in the month of August of 1986 in four
Yeah,
separate incidents.
yeah,
So all that stuff was kind of weighing on me. You know what I mean? I've always been an individual that had a conscience. I mean, I wasn't one of them people, you know what I mean, that would go out and do things and then, wouldn't even think about it afterwards.
right.
No,
You,
I thought about all of that stuff. So sitting up in that county jail, hearing all these stories and, what I mean, not being able to, to get contact visits, you know, I just wanted to just get it over with one way or another.
so
So
you
I
you
didn't delay nothing.
you fight your initial case for 6 months. How long did it
Yeah.
take the jury to come back with a verdict? You went to trial, right? This wasn't a deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
you went to trial because you
No, no,
had an
no.
appeal. I'm
No, I
gonna
went
get
to
into
trial.
that. How long did
Absolutely.
it take the jury to come back with the verdict?
The next day, the next day, I got dressed, went to court the next day. Yeah, from the county jail. Oh no, they verdict was already signed, sealed, and
Sealed
delivered.
and delivered. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I just want to read something here. Okay, so let me ask you this. They come back with the verdict guilty. You got sentenced in September. They came back with the verdict when?
Uh,
About June,
September.
July?
No, no, no. Let me see. I
You
went
get
to trial
arrested
in the
December,
summer in July. Yeah,
July.
I
So
got arrested in December, and I went to trial. I think my trial may have started in May, the pre-trial, and then the actual, sitting in the jury and everything, because they delay it maybe a month or so. Uh, so around the summer, around June of 1987 is when I actually went through trial, and I was convicted.
and
Probably the
then
latter part, I think,
sentence in
latter part.
September.
Then sentenced in September.
So now you go off, you go through the whole phase, and you end up in San Quentin. You do all of that, and then in I want to say it was it 90, no, 80 something, 80 something. You come back down on a
Appeal.
uh, uh appeal, correct?
Yeah, yeah. January
Okay.
1989, approximately 18 months later.
Okay, so I want to just read this in the context of case overview. In the incident 1986, the case stemmed from the shooting death of Robert Lee Bollinger in April 1986 during a dispute involving a marijuana purchase in the alley. The conviction 1987, Fitzpatrick was sentenced to 27 years to life, which you did 33, in prison for first degree murder. Legal challenge. His initial judgment was reversed by an appellate court due to erroneous jury instructions regarding implied malice. However, he was convicted again in a subsequent retrial. Claim of innocence. Fitzpatrick has consistently maintained that he was wrongfully convicted during his incarceration, which led you to read excuse me, to write the book The Forgotten Crip. It says racial tension. Witness testimony indicates that the victim had used racial slurs during the confrontation leading up to the shooting. Now, in the book, you say this gentleman comes back to the alley. He gets out of his car. You just said here in this interview that it was a drug transaction. You didn't say what type of drugs. Obviously, you must not have known. They must have been told something. I'm talking about the investigators or the institution people. You know what I'm saying? But the investigators must have been told something about this. You say he came back, he's fussing, whatever. When you get this initial trial, you know within yourself. Now, I have to say this because this is true dialogue. Got to ask this question because you do admit that you went out shooting. You heard some noise, you out there shooting, but you're confident that you were shooting pretty much in the air. That this you didn't do this. You didn't shoot directly at that man. You seen the man pull up, right? You seen all of that. Correct me if I'm wrong. This was actually after you had discharged your firearm to calm whatever situation was going on. He ended up coming, correct?
When you say he ended up coming, what do you mean?
The Mr. Robert ended up coming to the
Uh,
alley.
no, no, no. The whole situation occurred primarily in the alley. Him driving up, uh, his car being surrounded by people with trying to sell this or sell that, and one of them ended up snatching his money. Once I poked my head in the crowd and found out he was looking for marijuana, and not rock cocaine, which is what I was selling. Uh, I knew he wasn't gonna be a customer of mine. So I started making my way away from the scene, and which turned out, to be a scene situation because, yeah, no, he just jumped out of his vehicle in the alley, and that's pretty much what set up the chain of events.
So you just because in the book you mentioned something about discharging a firearm or something to that effect. My point is, you are confident that when you discharge your firearm, I mean, you can't be convicted, you can't be double tried, you were tried, and all of that. This is done. You're home. You're free behind you. You are confident that when you discharge your firearm, you did not hit him.
Yeah,
You're confident of that, right? So here you
absolutely.
are, you're fighting this
Yeah,
case for 6 months, you're sitting in trial. They find you guilty. Dwayne, what goes through you in that moment? You said you looked over at the jury. They didn't exchange gazes with you, which and your jury was all white,
there was one African American in the jury,
male or
one
female.
black male,
Hmm.
one
But
black male. I'll never forget
predominantly
it.
all white, no Hispanic
Oh yeah.
one
Uh,
one black.
there may have been, yeah, there was only one black person. The rest were either Caucasian or Asian or something else.
Okay, and yeah. Moving right along. What goes through you in that moment?
Uh,
If you can recall how you felt, I mean, I would imagine. How did you feel?
hearing hearing the hearing the reading of the verdict, um, it was kind of surreal. You know what I mean? Because I mean, for one, most of my life leading up to that point, everything was funny. You know what I mean? To me, you know what I mean, I was a jokester. You know what I mean, so to find myself in that situation, you know what I mean? Hell, the lights came on. Yeah, this, this, this is real. You know what I mean? These people ain't playing with me. I'm not finna go home. You know what I mean? I'm finna go somewhere else. And believe it or not, for some reason, I slept better that night than I think any other time I had leading up to that verdict in that county jail. I
Probably
probably
because
slept better
it
that night.
came to a resolve. You knew what it was.
Yeah, all
Then
the
you looked at it.
anxiety,
Yeah.
everything, the stress, everything was it was like a weight was lifted off of me, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I was still looking at it like, damn. You know what I mean, I got so many people that have passed away around me when I was the intended target for the most part. And I'm like, damn. You know what I'm saying? I survived this, but I'm going to prison. You know what I mean? And you gotta remember, I'm still 20 years old. I'm still immature. I'm still not focused. I still don't have my priorities in order. So I'm still just kind of like just going with the flow. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Do
And
you
in my
still
mind,
feel
I'm
tough?
gonna be vindicated
You
at
you
some
you
point.
hear convicted murder 187.
Mhm.
This is capital punishment. This is first
Yes, it is.
degree, not second.
Right.
And it seems like when I'm reading some of this, they you one of the things was mentioned when I did my research is the lie in wait. That could have got you the death penalty. So
Yeah.
the tough guy, is he still
Right.
there, or did he puppy down a little bit? Like, yeah,
Uh, oh,
I'm just saying.
you mean you mean at the time of the reading of the verdict and the sentencing? Uh, well, for
You
one,
know,
I
because
was,
things change.
yeah, they
I'm
do,
not
but
saying that it had to be permanent. I'm just like you said, it's real. These
right,
people ain't playing with me. Did you
right in that
cry?
moment. On the inside, yeah, 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 I cried. On the inside, I did.
Right.
But on the outside, no. Now, man, you got to come back to the block, back to the cell block, and act like, oh man, it ain't shit. I mean, I'll be all right. You know what I mean?
Wait,
On
stop
the
right there. You
inside,
got to do what? You got to come back. You just got
yeah,
to. I need all young
yeah,
men, young ladies too, because a lot of you young ladies act out there acting like you cannot get life and you act like you cannot get shot. And I'm here to tell you, both are. Listen, bullets have no name. To a shell, sex is all the same. And to a cell, it's all
yeah,
the same. Right there. You just got
yeah,
convicted
absolutely.
of Penal
Capital
Code,
murder.
California Penal Code Section
187.
187, known
Right,
to us as capital punishment crime of homicide.
right,
Life. You,
right.
you get guilty, you already know what it is. And you said you got to go back to and you got to do what?
You got to go back. You know what I'm saying? And you got to damn near fake it till you make it. You
Act
know what I mean?
like that.
Yes,
You got to
absolutely.
act like
Yeah, you got to go back and act like it ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? What happened is not really you know, this shit ain't gonna break me. You know what I mean? Yeah, they did that. They found me guilty. I mean, so what? That's what you say. That's what your body language and your facial expressions say. But on the inside, you know what I'm saying? You clutching your pillow. You know what I mean? So you're like, damn. You know what I mean? The reality of it hitting, yeah, it stings. You know what I mean?
so.
But I
When
had a
you lay
young,
down that night and go to sleep, now we're gonna move on to the chart. You actually charge.
mm,
You go on. You lay down and go to sleep. You in the county jail. This is now you getting sentenced. Now you done got
mhm,
sentenced. You got to deal with the conviction. Now you got to deal with the sentence. 27 years. I would imagine again. You cry inside. You don't cry outside. You go. You tough it out. You act again. But when you lay your pillow, your head on that pillow, and put your
mhm.
face in the pillow, did you cry? This time not outside. The tears come out here.
No, they didn't. You know what I mean? They didn't because I shed so many tears over lost loved ones, not being there for my child, that my tears had kind of dried up. I was kind of numb. You know
Over
what I
the
mean?
course of these 6 months.
Yeah,
Over the
yeah,
course of the 6 months.
yeah. I
So
was kind of
you
numb.
go on to San Quentin. Um, you
The
up
first
there.
time
You
was Chino, exception, yeah.
yeah. You go to Chino for reception. You
Mhm.
20 years old going to prison for the first time. And they say San Quentin. What go through your mind? You like San Quentin because you said you chose in reception in Chino. They asked you about you wanted to go to two different prisons, and you end up
Yeah,
going to San
they
Quentin. You
actually,
didn't even choose this.
yeah,
San Quentin wasn't
no,
even neither one of your
no,
two choices.
no, not at all. Um, everybody when they go first go into the system, they want to stay as close to home as they possibly can. And I'd known of Tehachapi because I had a sibling that had been there before, and I knew it wasn't no 8, 10, 15, 20 hours away. So that was my first choice, and I think New Old Folsom at that time was probably be my second choice. But yeah, they give you a couple of choices in theory, but in reality, they're gonna send you where they want to send you. And at that time, San Quentin is a prison that had the openings for 30, 40 individuals. So that's why I got
San,
sent to.
so you go to San Quentin. Now, when you're in San Quentin, I'm gonna go back into this. Um, you do the 33 years. You come back on. You come back on your appeal. You get granted the appeal.
That was
You
after I
have
was
been in,
incarcerated
you
for
have been
18 months.
incarcerated at that time for about
Uh,
I guess
uh,
about 2 years. Well, you have been
yeah,
incarcerated at the
uh,
time about 2 3 years. Say 3 years, because you get arrested December '86. You get
right.
convicted in '87. So
7,
we add all that, and now you do
yeah.
this. You're in San Quentin. You do this time,
January of 89, yeah.
and you come down to the men's central jail
Mhm.
in Los Angeles, California.
No, San Bernardino.
You come to
San
San
Bernardino County.
Bernardino on the appeal.
Yeah,
So how did you? Okay, so you go to L.A. County Jail though to go to court for one of your friends.
yeah.
So at this time you haven't came back on your appeal yet.
87. No, I hadn't even been back on my appeal yet.
So
My
you're in
pill
San
was
Quentin,
still
you
in
get called
adjudication.
down to LA County Jail
Yeah,
to go to
yeah,
court for LJ.
yeah.
What kind of case was he looking at, your friend, LJ?
Uh, he was actually one of the individuals that was incarcerated behind that shooting where Lil Willie ended up losing his life. He
Oh,
wasn't charged with the shooting, but in the aftermath, he was charged with attempt murder on the intended targets that evening.
wow.
So
So,
it was my intent to go over there because I had already in my mind I was washed up, I was done. So it was my intent to actually go down there and try to take the case off of him. Put myself kind of in a position
inject it
where
and pick it up
yeah,
and have it ran
ex-
concurrent, basically with your
right,
with your
exactly.
time.
Right.
Why didn't that happen? They didn't allow it. Why didn't it go that way? If that was your intent,
Well,
what?
being that what I mean, I didn't know no better, and luckily, I'm saying, I had some older homies, I'm saying, that was way more wiser, way more experienced than I, that kind of talked me out of that and told me not to do that. You know what I mean? So that's why that didn't go the way that went. I did end up, getting on the stand and putting him in a different car seat in the car. That kind of made it kind of impossible for him to have done what they said he did. So, but at the same time, I didn't put myself in the hot seat either, which was my initial intent. So just by me doing that, he ended up getting a mistrial. Then later on, I think he ended up taking the deal or something. But yeah, if
Wow.
had it not been for that wise counsel, yeah, I might still be in prison.
How long did he get for the attempted murder?
Uh, Less than 10 years, maybe 8 to 10 years. I think he did maybe about 9. Came home. Yeah, came home. Then he ended up getting uh, rearrested a few months later. Ended up doing extensive amount of prison time himself. Yeah, before he came home again. He's home now as well.
Wow. So we I had said to you there's a lot to go over in this. We are
There's a lot of layers.
huh?
Mhm. I say, yeah, there's a lot of layers. You know what I mean? There's a lot of
There's a lot. So
misinformation out there. Yeah. Mhm.
one of the things, and I just want to throw this out there, we'll bring you back next Saturday. We got a lot to discuss. Attempted rape in the county jail on someone when you came down for your case with LJ. You talk about the fights in Corcoran. We got a lot to unpack here.
Mhm.
Same time, February 28th, which is next Saturday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Your daughter Destiny, Darlene, you going to the whole. I mean, it is interesting. Duane Fitzpatrick, author of The Forgotten Crip, 33 years in the California Department of Corrections, or what they call the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And as you said, where is the rehabilitation? I want to go back to school for my doctorate, and I want to get my doctorate in social psychology. And ever
Mhm.
since I finished my master and had the thought of doing my doctorate, one of my mentors told me start thinking about your dissertation. And I have a really great dissertation idea. And I just been sitting on that. I'm kind of caught between a name. I came up with a name and forgot the name. And so I've been like kind of in between names. But I have a really great dissertation and I'm so excited. Hopefully everything works out and I will be able to go back for my doctorate, do the dissertation, and then present it as a means of reducing some of the recidivism. But again, there is absolutely a lot to unpack here. Definitely want to talk about the attempted rape situation that went on in the county jail because as we see, a lot of this is coming up in today's society about the rapes and the homosexuality and things like that. I know Corcoran was up in airs a couple of years ago about what they were calling the pit bull fights and things like that. You were in Corcoran, you and your celly and just your mom and just your mom, your sister. It's just
Mhm.
so much to unpack. I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I certainly look forward because we're just getting started. True Dialogue Podcast, guided by spirit, grounded in truth. It is not small talk, it is true dialogue. This is part one of the Forgotten Crip with Duane Fitzpatrick. Please join us again next Saturday, February 28th, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on the True Dialogue Podcast for part two of the Forgotten Crip with Duane Fitzpatrick. You absolutely do not want to miss this. We just scratched the surface tonight. Next week, we jumping in the deep end. Thank you so much, Mr. Fitzpatrick,
All right.
for joining me, joining us. You are certainly an overcomer, and your story is one of triumph. And I look forward to speaking with you further where we could really dig into some things. We'll touch bases in. Give yourself a round of applause, man. You certainly deserve it.
Appreciate it.
We will see you again. You have a good evening. Saturday, February 28th, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Same setup. Thank you all for joining
All right.
us.